The galaxy's greatest heroes gathered aboard the Stellar Unity, the largest spaceship ever built by the Milky Way Alliance. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the grand hall, their armor gleaming, their weapons humming with energy. They came from every corner of the galaxy, towering Yolther warriors with skin like steel, flame-wielding Drexians, and the sharp-eyed Elvery from the gas planets. In the middle of the crowd stood Alex Carter, the only human in the room. Compared to the others, he looked plain, almost fragile. No glowing eyes, no superhuman strength, just a regular human in a standard-issue space suit. The aliens whispered among themselves. "Why is a human here?" A snake like Sharat hissed. "Earthlings are weak," a Drexian sneered. "They can't survive real battles." Alex heard the whispers but ignored them. He stood calmly, his posture straight. He wasn't here to argue, he was here to prove himself. The Alliance commander, a tall Elvery with a shimmering golden cape, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the hall. "We face an enemy unlike any before. The Shadow Horde has destroyed entire star systems. We need the best warriors to stop them." A hologram of a dark, menacing fleet filled the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even the bravest flinched at the sight of the Shadow Horde's deadly ships. The commander continued, "Each of you has been chosen for your strength and skill. But survival will require more than power. It will demand courage, strategy, and the will to fight until the end." He glanced at Alex. "Even Earth has sent a representative. Perhaps we'll see if humans can live up to their reputation." Laughter echoed from a group of Drexians. "Reputation? They're just lucky their planet hasn't been invaded yet." Alex stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "You'll see what humans can do. We may not have claws or wings, but we don't give up. Ever." The hall fell silent. For a moment, the aliens saw something in Alex's eyes, a spark of determination that didn't match his ordinary appearance. As the Stellar Unity prepared to leave for the battlefield, Alex's words lingered in the minds of the heroes. They didn't know it yet, but this human was about to show them something they'd never forget. The Stellar Unity entered the atmosphere of Ragna 5, a planet covered in dark, swirling storms. Lightning flashed across the sky, casting eerie shadows on the barren landscape below. The ground was jagged, with sharp rocks and pools of boiling liquid scattered everywhere. The air itself seemed hostile, burning the lungs of anyone without advanced breathing gear. The heroes landed in small teams, each assigned a different sector. Alex Carter found himself paired with Kale Rohr, a towering Yolther warrior whose metallic skin shimmered even in the dim light. Kale looked down at Alex with a mix of annoyance and disbelief. "Stay out of my way, human," Kale grumbled. "I don't have time to babysit you." Alex didn't respond. He adjusted his gear, gripping his plasma rifle tightly. He had no interest in arguing with the 7-foot-tall warrior. As they moved through the hostile terrain, the ground trembled. A low growl echoed in the distance. Alex scanned the horizon, his instincts sharp. "Something's coming," he said quietly. Kale snorted. "Your human senses are too weak to." Before he could finish, a massive creature burst from the ground. It was a Ragna beast, a towering predator with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes. Its roar shook the air, sending shockwaves through the ground. Kale charged forward, swinging his energy axe with brutal force. The beast snarled, dodging the attack and swiping at Kale with its claws. Alex stayed back, observing the fight. Kale was strong, but the beast was faster. As Kale struggled, Alex noticed something: the creature's movements followed a pattern. Its attacks always left its left side exposed. "Kale, distract it!" Alex shouted. Kale glared at him but followed the advice, attacking head-on. While the beast focused on Kale, Alex moved to its blind spot. He aimed his rifle and fired a precise shot at the creature's neck. The beast let out a final roar before collapsing. Kale stared at Alex, stunned. That was lucky. Alex shrugged. Not luck. Just observation. Before Kale could respond, their comms crackled. All teams, report. The Shadow Horde is advancing on all fronts. Alex and Kale exchanged a glance. The real battle was just beginning. The battlefield was chaos. Explosions lit up the dark sky of Ragna 5, and the air was filled with roars, screams, and the hum of energy weapons. The Shadow Horde's forces were relentless, pushing the heroes to their limits. Alex Carter and Kale Rohr found themselves cornered in a narrow canyon. The enemy swarmed from all sides, grotesque creatures with glowing red eyes and sharp, spiked armor. Kale fought fiercely, his energy axe slicing through enemies like butter. Alex covered his back, picking off attackers with precise plasma shots. But the horde kept coming. Fall back! Kale yelled. We can't hold this position. Alex shook his head. If we retreat, they'll overrun the others. We have to hold them here. Kale growled but didn't argue. The human's determination was starting to get to him. As the battle raged on, Alex set traps and used the environment to their advantage. A well-timed explosion sent a wave of enemies flying, giving them a brief moment to breathe. But the relief didn't last. A massive horde beast, twice the size of anything they'd faced before, charged into the canyon. It roared, shaking the ground, and lunged at Alex. He dove out of the way, but the beast's claws grazed him, tearing through his suit and slicing deep into his arm. Blood poured as Alex fell to the ground. Kale froze for a moment, staring at the injury in disbelief. Human, you're... I'm fine. Alex shouted, using his good arm to push himself up. His left arm hung useless, bleeding heavily. But his voice was steady. Keep fighting. Kale hesitated, but Alex's unwavering focus pushed him back into action. Despite the pain, Alex grabbed a grenade with his remaining hand and hurled it at the beast. The explosion rocked the canyon, finally bringing the monster down. When the dust settled, Alex leaned against a rock, pale but alive. Kale looked at him in awe. You lost an arm and didn't even stop fighting, he said, his voice filled with disbelief. Alex managed a weak smile. On Earth, we don't stop. Not until it's over. For the first time, Kale didn't see a fragile human. He saw a warrior. The comms crackled again. All units, prepare for a final stand. Reinforcements are far away. You're on your own. Alex tightened his grip on his rifle. Then we finish this. The sunless sky of Ragna 5 glowed red with fire and smoke as the battle neared its climax. The Shadow Horde poured into every corner of the battlefield, their numbers seemingly endless. The galaxy's mightiest heroes were pushed to their breaking point, and even their legendary powers weren't enough to turn the tide. In the middle of the chaos, Alex Carter stood with one arm bandaged and the other clutching his plasma rifle. Beside him, Kale Rohr swung his energy axe, cutting down enemies with brute strength. The Yotha warrior had stopped mocking Alex. Now, he fought alongside the human as an equal. We can't hold them back much longer. A voice crackled over the comms. Panic was spreading through the ranks. Alex's voice cut through the noise. Focus! We've held them this far. We just need to hold a little longer. The heroes around him turned, surprised by the commanding tone. Alex's face was pale from blood loss, but his eyes burned with determination. They're not unstoppable, Alex continued. We've already taken down their beasts. We can do this together. Kale roared, raising his axe. The human is right. Fight harder. Inspired by Alex's words, the heroes rallied. The Drexians unleashed waves of fire, the Elvery used precision strikes, and Kale tore through the enemy ranks like a storm. Alex directed them, using his sharp mind to find weak points in the enemy's formation. But the Shadow Horde wasn't done. Their leader, a massive armored figure surrounded by dark energy, stepped onto the battlefield. His voice boomed like thunder. "You are weak. This galaxy will fall." The heroes faltered, the sheer presence of the enemy leader filling them with dread. Alex, however, didn't flinch. He grabbed a device from his belt, a small energy disruptor he'd built earlier. "Kale," Alex said, his voice firm. "I need a distraction." Kale nodded, charging at the leader with a battle cry. The other heroes followed, attacking with everything they had. Alex slipped through the chaos, planting the disruptor near the leader's energy core. The device hummed to life, releasing a pulse that shattered the dark energy shield. The leader staggered, vulnerable for the first time. "Now!" Alex shouted. The heroes unleashed their full power, their combined might overwhelming the enemy leader. As the dust settled, Alex stood amidst the victorious heroes, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. The final battle wasn't over yet, but the tide had finally turned. The battlefield was quiet for the first time. The Shadow Horde's forces were defeated, their leader crushed by the combined strength of the galaxy's heroes. Smoke and ash drifted through the air, covering the broken ground of Ragna 5. Alex Carter stood at the center of it all, his one arm still gripping his plasma rifle. His suit was torn, his face streaked with dirt and blood, but he stood tall. Around him, the other heroes stared in silence, their expressions a mix of shock and awe. Kale Roar, the mighty Yotha warrior, approached Alex. The towering alien looked down at the human who had led them to victory. "You did what no one else could," Kale said, his voice filled with respect. "You united us. Without you, we would have fallen." Alex gave a tired smile. "It wasn't just me. We all fought together. That's why we won." One by one, the other heroes stepped forward. The flame-wielding Drexians, the precise Elvery, even the skeptical Sharat, all of them nodded in respect. They had mocked him before, but now they saw him for what he truly was, a warrior, and more importantly, a leader. As the injured were tended to and the battlefield secured, the Alliance commander arrived in his golden cape, surveying the scene. His gaze rested on Alex. "Human, you've proven something today," the commander said. "Strength isn't just about power. It's about heart, courage, and never giving up. And humans seem to have all three." Alex shook his head. "It's not just humans. It's anyone who decides to stand and fight, no matter the odds." The commander nodded. "Spoken like a true hero." A small smile spread on Alex's face, but before he could respond, Kale clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder. "When we tell this story, they'll call you the unbreakable human. A warrior who lost an arm but never lost his spirit." Alex laughed softly. "Let's hope they spell my name right." The heroes boarded the Stellar Unity to return home. As the ship ascended, Alex stood by a window, looking down at the battlefield below. He had come to Ragna 5 as an underestimated soldier. He left as a legend. And across the galaxy, stories of the human who inspired even the mightiest heroes began to spread.